think it was the wise decision for the defense to put him up there?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. So here's my opinion on police officers on the stand. Given their job and given the amount of testimony they have to do in cases, we as defense attorneys, we typically call police officers professional testifiers. And what that means is, unlike people, everyday citizens who the courtroom would be a very jarring place to be, they're used to being on the stand. They are used to testifying. They're used to connecting with the jury. And I think that he did a pretty good job from what I saw of doing so. But you cannot separate and or divorce that from what the actions were here. The issue is that he is accused of recklessly shooting without identifying the target, without identifying who all was inside, as he admits himself. And I think that's going to be a problem for the defense.
This is really a case where you can almost kind of put yourself into the position of the neighbors who testified, the victims in this case, the police as they responded. You could put yourself in the shoes of Breonna Taylor and her boyfriend in those moments. It's terrifying, really, all angles. And the way I look at it, Tamara, based on your perspective and what you were thinking, what you knew at the time of when this was happening, it's such a tragic, tragic event. And, Joy played a clip talking about Kenneth Walker, the boyfriend of Breonna Taylor, and he so emotional in what he responded to officers at the scene, and we know his story, but I want to take us back to that sort of state of mind by playing his 911 call that he made from that apartment that night.
911 operator, where's your emergency?
I don't know what's happening. Somebody kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend. Oh my God.
Okay, how old is your girlfriend?
She's 26. Breathe.
You said 26. Where was she shot at?
I don't know. She's on the grill right now. I don't know.
Okay. You said she's 26. Is she alert and able to talk to you?
No, she's not. Breathe.
And Tamara, given that the testimony of the defendant raising what Kenneth Walker did in reaction, what he said to officers, and hearing that emotion, does it surprise you or make you question? I know some people have been questioning why maybe he wasn't called as a witness for the prosecution to talk about the scene that night, even though they say this isn't about Breonna Taylor.
Right. Obviously, as you said in the previous question, you have to put yourself in these people's position. I mean, you just, as a person, as an empathetic human being, you almost can't resist that. So here, his 911 tape, speaks for itself. And it's the bigger issue of these no-knock warrants. It's the same thing that we discussed with Amir Locke recently. If you have someone entering your home, especially if you're asleep or in your bedroom and you're not able to see the door, you don't know who that is. And we have a constitutional right to be armed, to protect ourselves. And that's exactly what plays out in these scenarios. And here, this is a perfect example of what the issue is with no-knock warrants. You have an officer who was injured and you have someone who lost their life. This practice is leading to results too often that are just simply unacceptable. And you heard that in Walker's voice, his emotions. His life had just been stripped in front of him with the loss of his girlfriend. And that's something that we need to seriously examine in this country.
Right. Even the testimony of Hankinson was adding to some of how this was planned, but it really wasn't, how policies maybe weren't followed during the execution of the search warrant. Yeah, a lot of issues and maybe even more unanswered questions based on his testimony that maybe need to be looked into. Tamara, I know you're going to be hanging out with me this hour. Thank you for your time. We're going to squeeze in a break. Coming up next, a Georgia man